Hey guys. So I want to take today to kind of have some real talk. I mean, about relationships. So here's the thing. I think a lot of people are more in love with an idea of the relationship more so than they are about actually being in one. And here's why I say that. I think a lot of people have this disconnect when it comes to transitioning out of a relationship that you have when you're in school versus the relationship that you have when you're an adult. You know what I mean? Like when you're in high school, think about it. Some of the reasons why you date people are very superficial. For one, it can be about popularity, it can be about looks, it can be about you're on the varsity team, I'm on the cheerleading team, things like that. People tend to date when they're in high school for, status. So I think that we transition and bring those things over into our reality when we're adults also. So it makes us kind of confused on the reasons why we date, why we keep people around, and our standards also. And I had to really check myself about that too, because just looking back on the history of people that I've dated, getting to the root of why I dated some of the people that I have, it is very childlike. You know what I mean? Like, for example, some of the reasons why I would get into relationships with these boys, I won't even call them men, is because of status. You know what I mean? Like, I would get into relationships with men because of, what they had, or, what, how they looked sometimes. Sometimes. Because not all the time was it about looks, but, you know, it just superficial reasons like that. When you should really, when it comes to a relationship, you have to be honest with how it makes you feel. And I kind of prided myself on that. I tend to be the type of person to want to look at people's hearts, look at their potential. And that's good too. But let's get to the core of the reasons why, we keep some of these people around knowing they aren't good for us. I feel like majority of the reason is because of, what we didn't have when we were younger. I'm kind of reading a book now that taps into it, and what she's pretty much saying is whatever wounds that haven't been healed when you were a kid, they show up in people, right? So let's say you didn't get love or affection when you were a child. You get that little ounce of attention and affection from a man, and that's what you cling on to. You get it? So even if they're treating you like crap, you're still clinging and holding on to them for dear life, because it's like, well, now I fear abandonment. I have attention, I have affection, I didn't have it before, but God forbid you leave. Now I don't have it at all. Love is supposed to be, let's backtrack a little bit. You are your own mirror. So the people that you attract are your mirrors, are different versions of you, which is why you have to come to this place of surrender and beautiful, acceptance of who you are, because you have to understand that's just a version of you. You attract what you are, which is why you have to always raise your vibration of what you are as a person. But let's say you keep attracting the same kinds of people. And I've been there. I have. I've attracted the same type of man with just a different face. But it's only been recently where I had to stop and say, what's the problem? Why do I keep attracting these types of men into my life? And it was because these are different versions of me. I personally didn't, I had insecurities within my own self. So now here I am attracting these types of men who are insecure, and they project those things onto you. And let's go a little bit deeper. I had fear of intimacy, or let's say you fear, you mentally abuse yourself. Like in your own mind, you say things like, oh, well, I'm really not pretty, or I really don't like that about myself, or I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't, I'm not that good. Now you're attracting someone who's not only verbally abusing you, but he's physically abusing you. These are your mirrors. So when you look around at the people that you surround yourself with, you have to ask yourself, is this really a representation of who I am? You have to be honest. Because if you don't like who you are attracting, you have to go within. We can sit here all day and play the blame game. She's this and she's that and she doesn't like, you can do that all day, but what it does is it hurts you in the long run. If you don't like what you are attracting, you don't like something inside of yourself that you keep doing, and it's a cycle. And until you break that cycle, it's going to keep showing up. Even if, let's say, okay, well, I'm just going to stop being in relationships altogether. Right. Now we're talking about your career. You have to work. And the people who you surround yourself around at your job, they're also your mirrors. Or let's say you're working at and listen, I always say this. I am not opposed to anybody working at a fast food restaurant. Not opposed to it. But I do believe that what you surround yourself with is a direct representation of how you feel on the inside, right? So let's say, now you're not in a relationship with someone and you're throwing yourself into your work. If the people who you are still surrounding yourself with, you find yourself in all of the same cycles of friends, where all they do all day is talk mess and talk junk and they, disrespecting other people. What does that say about you? You know the saying, if you are surround yourself or, you are surrounded by a whole bunch of terrible people, or 4 out of your friends are broke and do nothing but talk mess about all the other people that they don't like all day, you're going to be the 5th. You will be the 5th. It doesn't matter how good of a person you think you are. Your reality is going to portray you. You can sit up here and, look me in the eye and tell me all day, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I'm a good person. But I can see what type of person you are based off of what you surround yourself with. You don't have to tell me anything. I see it. And that comes with being very self-aware and being honest. You need a reality check. If you think that you are just the best person in the world and everybody else is the problem, look at your circumstances. If you don't like what you see, you need a reality check. And I say that with love. I do. I really do. I didn't want to hear this. I was more comfortable with being silent and just not wanting to rock the boat, more so than it was about going deep within myself and checking myself. I was more comfortable with everybody else having their issues. I'm more comfortable with that. I am. I'm ready and willing to give everybody advice all the time. But even that just says a lot about who you are. If you're more comfortable with fixing everybody else's problems and not fixing your own, you're more liable to attract more problems. And that also shows up in your relationships. If all you do all day is sit around trying to fix everybody else's problems, you're going to attract, and now I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Sometimes you just have a good spirit. You attract a lot of people to you. But you attract problems. And it's one thing to help someone out with their problems, but it's another thing to attract people with nothing but problems. That shows up in your relationships. That shows up in your career. That just shows up in multiple different ways. And it's going to continue to show up until you put a stop to it and say, I don't want that anymore. You have to have your own cup filled before you think that you can reach out to somebody else and fill someone else's. What are you even pouring from? How do you even get that back? If you can answer me that, if you can honestly tell me, the more you pour out into people, the more you can, the more fulfilled you are, then by all means, disregard what I'm saying. Disregard what I'm saying, for sure. But I'm just talking from experience. A lot of people, because I am small, I thought that was the reason. Maybe it is part of the reason. But another reason being just because I was very quiet. I didn't want anybody to think that I had my own opinions. I didn't want anybody to, you know, be all in my business or challenge someone else's opinion, because it required a level of strength and confidence to back it up that I wasn't ready to step up and be. But in return, I started to manifest people who treated me as if I was very naive and dumb and played on my intelligence. And one thing I'm not is dumb, by a long shot. But people will treat you how you treat yourself. So I guess the message I really want to get across is, if you don't like your reality, you have every option to change it. But it requires a level of honesty that you have to be prepared for. It's not everyone else, it's you. So, you know, in regards to my Monday motivation, what I want most for the people that listen to me is to understand that if you want change, it starts with you. So, you know, I want you to be honest about where you are, and I want you to check who you're surrounded by. And if you don't like it, you need to look at the person in the mirror. So I hope you guys enjoy your Monday, and make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube so we can have more of these discussions.